Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm excited. Mama, I made it. Finally. It feels so good to be here on stage with TEDx. It's something I've dreamt of as an entrepreneur my whole life, to be able to share my story, to really inspire action with other millennial entrepreneurs. Not really just for the credibility, but really to inspire those to know that it really is all possible. If there's one thing that I want you to take from my talk today, it's that not everyone can be a great entrepreneur, but a great entrepreneur can come from anywhere. And I guess that's where it all began for me. I was an average kid. I grew up here in Jersey, a little town called Belleville. And growing up, I wasn't the smartest kid. I wasn't the tallest, the fastest in sports. A lot of times I was looked at as more of a troublemaker, or, took a lot of chances and was creative in my own way. I actually remember a story. I was in elementary school, and the teacher asked the classroom, who should make more money when you get older, a doctor or Patrick Ewing? And everybody in the classroom said a doctor, except for me, of course. I said Patrick Ewing. And then when he asked me why, I said, well, because Patrick Ewing could fill up Madison Square Garden. And, that was something that was like my type of personality. I was just different. I wanted to think differently. And, in life, I think that you have to be a big dreamer. You have to think big. And when I was young, even though I was looked at as a little bit different, I didn't worry about it. Exactly. I just thought big. I was a big dreamer. I had this little fire inside of me that was burning to be great, to know that I could be more. And I think it all really started with my mother and my father, who I dedicate this speech to. My mother's actually in the audience right now. They really taught me my core values at a young age, and I was blessed to have them in my life because they taught me love, they taught me integrity, they taught me work ethic, or what I like to call hustle. And my father taught me leadership at a very young age. He actually did something that I look back on and I'm so grateful for. He used to leave these little notes throughout the house. I would go and open up a cabinet, or I'd open up the refrigerator to get a glass of milk, and there'd be this ripped up note with a quote from John Adams or Marcus Aurelius, a leader. And back then I used to laugh about it. And now I look back and I understand that he was subconsciously trying to build me into a leader myself. And my mother, I saw her work 7 days a week, tirelessly. She worked at a local supermarket. It was actually my first job. And I think that was when I really kicked in for me, that I wanted to be so successful because I wanted to give back. I didn't want to see my parents work so hard. But because they worked so hard, that work ethic really was ingrained in me, that hustle. Now, as I was getting a little older, of course, my parents told me that in order for me to become successful, I had to go to college, that was the way, that was the path. And like many of all of us millennials, we listened to our family and we went to school. Well, for me, within my first semester, I really felt that school wasn't for me. I felt that it was a big business and telling me what class to take to learn what I wanted to learn, and I am pro-education. But for me, it just didn't feel right. My intuition was telling me that I needed to get out into the real world. I needed to learn from experience. I needed to take action if I wanted to be, if I wanted to be really successful. I wanted that extraordinary success. I needed to take a chance, a risk. And back then, it was looked upon as exactly what people thought of me when I was younger, a failure, a dropout. Oh, he's the example He's never going to make it. And I think this was the first moment in my life that I really had to face fear and adversity, because it was the fear of disappointment for my family. Was I going to be that failure by dropping out? I'll never forget my father telling me, you're on your own. If this is a decision you make, you live with it. If you get down, you got to get yourself back up and figure it out. And that built a fire inside of me. So the first thing I wanted to do is I really wanted to understand what made companies successful. At this point in my life, I didn't think of entrepreneurship. I didn't even want to call myself an entrepreneur. I just wanted to learn about business. What made Apple, Apple? What made Facebook, Facebook? Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola? How can I learn about these companies and how they became successful? So I actually was very interested in learning about the stock market. And I ended up creating an online community to solve a problem that I was facing, because I was looking to find other people that were looking to learn about what made stocks great, how companies became investable. I built this community, and it actually led me to a mentor in my life. And this is when I really realized how important mentorship was for me. And this mentor actually got me a position with a technology company out of New Jersey that saw the online community that I had created. And when he met me, the CEO, Ron, he said, I don't think you understand the value of what you've created. So I want you to come work with me, and I'm going to teach you about investor relations and public relations. So I thought this was a huge break for me. I started working for this company, and I was literally almost sleeping at this office, working there till 3, 4 in the morning while my friends were in school, going out, doing things. And I completely sacrificed to just be at that office and to learn. And I started helping this company tell their story. I started writing their press releases. I started getting them written in magazines. And I built their company over that year to have the largest shareholder base out of any small cap company at the time. And this kind of led me to my first failure in life. And I think this is so important for entrepreneurs, because I think if you're not failing, you're doing something wrong. But back then, I didn't see it that way. This was it for me. This was my big deal. So this company is growing. Everything's going great. I called the CEO and I said, we're going to do the first ever live demonstration, Ron. Everybody's excited about our product. And the company, what they had created was a nano battery. What that was a patented wafer structure using nanotechnology with a partnership with Lucent Bell Labs that they created to separate the two liquids within a battery. That until you turn the device on, it then would release the pores, allowing the liquids to mix, therefore creating essentially an infinite shelf life battery. And I was so excited about this, because to this day, I still don't understand why we're charging our cell phones 2-3 times a day. So Ron said, Gerard, the demonstration's a brilliant idea. You handle it from soup to nuts. So I got a venue in New York City. I hustle and get everybody in the media, investors, to get into that room. Hundreds of people are in that room that day. I'll never forget it. And I went into the bathroom and I had cue cards. It was the first time I was ever going to get in front of a room of a couple hundred people to talk about what I was passionate about. I'll never forget the CEO, Ron, came in that bathroom. He smacked the cards out of my hand. He said, Gerard, just be yourself. You did this. You helped get these people in the room. Just go out there and be yourself. That's exactly what I did. I came on stage. I said, hi, everybody. I'm Gerard Adams. I've spoken to many of you over the phone. This is why I believe in this company, M-Phase Technologies. Let me introduce to you the Chief Scientist Officer, Dr. Fred Allen. Dr. Fred Allen comes up, and on the 2 screens, they were showing that no energy was being used. He had the device in front of him. He was going to press this button, light a light bulb, show that energy is now being used, just proving the concept of the nano battery. And in this moment, they were going to be able to raise millions of dollars to take this into production. And I was sitting in the front row, and I was waiting. This is my moment. He hits that button. What do you think happens? Crickets. It doesn't work. I was devastated. I was probably 18, 19 years old. Looked like a little kid. I thought my career was over. But what happened was interesting. A couple people came up to me and said, "Hey, kid, I'm surprised you got me in the room. Take my card." And I left there and I said, man, if I'm so passionate, if I was able to still market this company and get all those people in the room, I can't let this stop me. So I took that passion and I decided to build my own agency to help small cap companies tell their story. And I built that and with a small team, learned how to build a culture in my apartment and built that company up to $10 million in revenue by the time I was 24. I was on top of the world. I finally became a millionaire. I'll never forget calling my dad, telling my dad, "Dad, that comma finally hit. I'm a millionaire." I wanted to give back to my family. I felt so good. But this is when I learned about ego in my life. I got too caught up in the money. And I realized that money never leads, it follows. And at any point in time, it can be taken away. And that's exactly what happened. I went from having the Bentleys and the Ferraris and the penthouses, flying where I wanted, when I wanted, with whoever I wanted, and investing into the marketplace. And I was up $20 million in the market. And out of nowhere, 2008 to 2010 happens. Stock market crashes. My business goes to complete shambles. My portfolio down to zip, nada. And I went from feeling on top of the world to completely broke with an ego shattered. And I didn't know what to do next. This was the next point of real adversity in my life. And what I did next, I think, really shaped me for the rest of my life. And I really owe it to my mother. She told me a story that she grew up in a studio apartment with a family of 6 growing up. And one day she was walking home from school, and she was walking with a friend, and her friend said, "Jenny, I think that building is yours that's on fire." And she was walking with her friend. She said, "Oh my God, I think that is." She ran home, praying that her brothers and sisters, now my uncle and aunts, would be okay. They were. But all they had was the shirt on their back. They lost everything. See, my grandparents immigrated here to provide opportunity from Venezuela and on my father's side, Italy. In that moment, my mother said that the only choice she had to make was to drop out of school, beg her teacher to sign a permission slip to let her drop out of school to go get a job so that she could be able to help bring a little money home for my grandparents. She told me how she cried, begging the teacher, please. He just said, "You're crazy." And then finally she convinced him if she took night classes. My mother couldn't get a job. She was 15 years old. So what she told me she did was she went to Canal Street in New York City in the winter and helped vendors outside to make a little bit of money to help bring some food home for my grandparents. When she told me this story, and she looked me in the eyes and said, "If I was able to get through that, and now you have a roof over your heads for you and your sisters, and we rebuilt, you best believe you better get back out there and do it again." That story shaped my life. So, you bet your ass I got back out there and did it again. What happened was I started really understanding that even though that happened to me, what was the lesson from that? I started studying the economy. I started looking at my generation and saying, wow, everybody's paying attention to reality TV, Kardashians, Jersey Shore, all these things, and they're not paying attention to what's truly happening with our economy. Even to this day, largest debted nation in the world. So I decided to start educating my generation and started making documentaries on the economy. I grew a real passion for content. And during this process, I had an intern working for me who came to me with an idea. He grew a passion for content and said, "I want to start a website called Elite Daily." And he wanted to at first tailor it around business, but then when we started looking at the marketplace, we saw that there was a huge niche, something, a void in the market for millennials. And we felt there was not a publication that became the voice of our generation. And we decided to take action. Again, in my apartment. We took action, me, my co-founder, and a third co-founder, started interviewing each other, and we knew that we were going up against publications that have raised tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, but we didn't care. We believed, we had the confidence that we could create this. And people doubted us. People said that we weren't a real publication, we weren't real journalists, but we didn't care. We had a purpose, we had a passion for it. And because of that, we were able to really build a culture. We knew what we were doing was bigger than just us. And we were able to build a team that believed in our mission. And while bootstrapping it from an apartment and growing it to over 3.5 years to 80 million people per month, from us 3 to 2,000 contributors, and a team that was ride or die, who I owe it all to. 3.5 years go by. We set up an acquisition with the Daily Mail, a billion-dollar company. The day that they made this acquisition shaped my life. We sold the company in 2015 for $48 million. I actually got depressed after that because I thought I undersold the company. I thought I lost my baby. But what happened next was something that I feel blessed to have happened. After being depressed and calling my friends and saying, Gerard, you always want to jump out of a plane without a parachute and see if you can land. You should be grateful for this moment. And I said, I want to make a bigger impact for our generation. I want to be able to leverage my story, be able to get out there and show people that an average kid from Jersey was able to do this. And I started getting asked to speak in Silicon Valley, New York, and I saw all these ecosystems being built in all these unbelievable big cities. And I said, why aren't we building these ecosystems and providing the resources, education, emotional intelligence, leadership, mindset, business development, marketing, sales, all the things that I wish I had when I became an entrepreneur in our inner cities, in urban areas to support our youth. So I decided to come back to Newark, build an accelerator, rebuild this culture, and take action once again here in Newark to show that we can, with the right resources, change the world together as a generation. And if there's one thing I want to leave with, again, it's that not everybody can be a great entrepreneur, but a great entrepreneur can be from anywhere, as long as you lead with impact. Thank you.